Kaylee's in the back screaming, "Stop it, you're going to kill him."
That's the point!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheap Smut. My name is Katie Mizell.
And my name is Carl Mizell.
And this is a podcast that has a dog in its lap. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that the dog is in your lap and not mine.
Yeah.
He's your boy.
He's my boy.
I do the best I can, showing him the love and affection that he technically, legally deserves. But he's such a big dumb idiot. How are you?
I'm okay. My neck hurts.
Again?
It's sore. It's stiff.
Still? Okay.
I had a spasm in my neck yesterday, and I took meds that made me a zombie, but ultimately the spasm did stop. And now I just have the lingering and residual sort of pain and stiffness that I'm trying really hard to not stretch, because you're not supposed to stretch it. You're supposed to let it heal.
Yeah.
But it feels like you're supposed to stretch it. Anyway, ugh. Other than that, I'm good. I'm having a grand old week, I think. It's been pretty good.
I felt pretty good about the week.
Yeah. All right, cool. Oh my God. Are things like improving? Holy shit.
I mean, if you focus on the things that only focus on the things that you can control,
yeah,
I feel like that's easier.
Yeah.
I've felt better. I've deactivated both of my Twitter. I deactivated the Twitter account for Cheap Smut that we never used. I deactivated the Twitter account that I had that I never used.
Yep.
I'm active on Blue Sky, as are we now.
Yeah, as Cheap Smut.
Yep, which we'll talk about at the end of the show like we always do. I've been on Reddit less, but I've also been curating my Reddit experience a little bit more now that I'm on Blue Sky, and I can get my news and stuff, I can filter it a little bit more. So now I'm focusing just on I found a new subreddit last night that's all dedicated to just orange cats.
Yes.
I think I sent you a link. I posted a video, or not a video, a picture of Dan on there, and got some love.
Yes, our Danny boy.
So I'm focusing on the things that I can control. I'm curating my life in a more specific way in terms of knowing how to keep myself educated and informed, while also making sure that I'm not inundated. So that's why my week has been going pretty well personally.
Yeah.
Not to ramble on that too much, but
no, it's good. I'm glad your week is going well. I'm your wife. I'm supposed to care about your well-being and stuff.
Yeah. Plus, I've been playing bass. I've been playing my bass more. Not slapping it, because I'm not really good at it.
Yeah.
But
also, slapping the bass just, to me, sounds like a metaphor for masturbation.
It could be.
Every time.
Yeah.
I'm just like, God, stop saying that, because it makes it sound like you're jacking off.
Now I can just
slapping the bass, beating the meat.
Just imagine a like a Les Claypool solo every time going to town on it.
Yeah, it's funnier now. That's so funny.
But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Oh my God.
No. We're here to talk about a book.
A book. Yes, we are here to talk about Stormbound by Maggie Maren. That's the book that I read this week. This book was excellent, and it is my way of launching us headfirst into December, the last month of Cheap Smut for this season, and we're diving into holiday romances and all of the tropes that are like warm and snuggly and crackling fires and Santa Claus and fucking Krampus and all that stuff.
Are you saying like N apostrophe, like, oh look, it's fucking Krampus, or are you saying like, oh my God, they're fucking Krampus?
Yes.
Okay. Just
both,
checking.
Definitely both. So I wanted to start with this one, A, because I have known Maggie via social media for a while, and I've wanted to do one of these books. But B, it's one of my favorite tropes. Snowed in.
Snowed in, yes. You are a big Snowed in fan. And by the time this is hitting the Patreon feed on November 25th, which means it will hit the main feed on December 2nd. So perfect timing.
That's I do this as a job. I know what I'm doing sometimes.
More
or
less.
Bit. So I specifically chose this book because it is snowed in. I also chose it for the FMC because I love her, and I've known her through the marketing of this book, I have gotten to know the FMC just a little bit. So I was like, oh, I want to read her book. There we go.
No, let's do it then.
Let's do it. So Stormbound by Maggie Maren is the first book in the Pine Bluff series, which is like a series of interconnected standalones that all take place in the same universe with overlapping characters. It is available for $4.99 or through Kindle Unlimited, $16.99 for a paperback. It also has one of my favorite things. It has a playlist, an associated playlist. A lot of music is actually mentioned in the story, and that those songs are in that playlist, but also just vibes. It's building a whole vibe. So that is available at maggiemaren.com/listen. And it's a Spotify playlist. So you can just boop, press play and hear all these cool songs. Let's get into our triple T's. Our triggers this week are cheating ex-partner, FMC survives a car crash, mentions of / descriptions of tragic incidents in the MC's role as a forest ranger, and oh no, feelings. Our tropes are FM cis heterosexual romance, snowed in with a mountain man, opposites attract, small town romance, manic pixie goddess, and wood chopping scene.
Oh.
In our titillations, we have wood chopping scene.
So what you're saying is I should, before it gets too cold, I should get outside and ask our neighbor to get some of those chunks of wood and maybe film a couple things of me chopping wood in a tight t-shirt. Is that what I'm
mean, I have video of you chopping wood in a tight shirt for a reason.
Oh, that's true. You want another one?
Yes,
okay.
Of course I do.
Right,
Don't be silly.
Let's do it then.
Our other titillations are She Comes First by Dr. Ian Kerner. And these people know how to fuck. Not a lot of specific titillations this week, but just a lot of really good sex. Let's get started with our FMC. Her name is Kaylee Waters. She's the ultimate free spirit. She's very confident and very capable, but she's also very empathetic and kind of fragile. I think she's probably in her late 20s. Not fully sure on the age, but she's a full-grown adult woman. She has long blonde hair and blue-gray eyes, pale skin, and she is curvy. I don't know exactly how curvy, but she's hot.
How curvy was she?
Curvy enough.
All right, good enough.
And she's my favorite kind of woo-woo. She is a practicing witch. She carves candles with runes with her fingernail before she lights them. She carries tarot cards in her purse and crystals in her bra. You know, she's our kind of girl.
I was going to say, she's you, but a little more.
A little more.
Just a little more.
Yeah. If I leaned into my practice more, yeah, I would be a lot more like her. But so she's the fucking best. I love her to death. She works as a recruiter in Boston for the medical system there. She's very good at finding the right environment for people. So she has leaned into using that aspect of her gift to make money in Boston, which she fucking hates. And she misses her family, and she left Texas and hasn't been back, and it's hard, but the grind is grinding, and she's trying to prove that she can pay off her student loans and make it in the big city. And she's got a boyfriend who's a lawyer, and it's all going fine. Okay. It's all going great until she goes into her favorite coffee shop on a random Saturday around lunchtime, and she goes to the bathroom while she waits for her order, and she finds her boyfriend, whose name is Tyler, having sex actively with a barista. Like, you didn't even lock the door, you fucking idiot.
Actively penetrating a barista.
Yeah. Like, what? She's stunned for like 5 solid seconds, and he's still balls deep in this girl, and then she just screams, "You cheating asshat!" And she makes a big scene, and she storms out.
As one should.
As one should. And she
but eat shit, Tyler.
Eat shit, Tyler. Absolutely. He's going to eat so much shit throughout this book. It'll be great. So she gets in her car and she just starts driving. She's a wanderlusty kind of person. She was raised by sort of kooky hippie bikers. She needs to get on the road when she's upset. So she starts driving. She stops for gas station coffee and some kind of muffin or something. And follows her gut instincts and the moon and just starts driving. And eventually she goes north. She picks winding country back roads and beautiful scenery, and she contemplates her life. And I think she listens to a true crime podcast, and she chugs way too much coffee, and she has all of these feelings. It starts snowing, and then very suddenly there's a moose in the middle of the road, and it doesn't move, and it's a fucking moose.
Yeah.
And because she is from Texas and she doesn't know how to drive in the snow in Maine, which is where she has ended up. She's driven herself all the way up to fucking Maine from Boston.
She's been on the road. Oh, that's right. She's from You said that's right. I forgot you said she was from Texas. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
She drove for like 6 days?
Yeah.
No, she was in Boston.
She was in Boston.
Okay.
And she drove north for the day.
Gotcha.
And she does everything you're not supposed to do in a situation like this. She slams on her brakes. The car starts skidding and she starts turning the wheel frantically until eventually she goes full 360 spin and shoots off the side of the road into a ditch onto a snowbank that happens to be supported by a very large felled tree. So she has just destroyed her car. And she's mostly okay, thankfully. She's got the only thing she ends up with is like a massive seatbelt contusion across her left shoulder. But she's otherwise fine. And she's sitting there having a breakdown, trying to think of what to do next, because now she's stranded in the middle of the woods in Maine. And isn't that where Stephen King is from? And this place is terrifying. And suddenly there are headlights pulling up behind her. And a big male frame jumps out of a big truck, and her true crime podcast is still playing, and she's like, I'm going to die.
And it's literally narrating exactly what's happening to her, and she's like, wait, what?
Oh no. So she turns that podcast off and calls her best friend Maisie, who still lives in Texas, and she just says, I don't have time to talk, something is going on, I need you to stay on the line. Girl code, I just need you to be here so I don't get murdered. Yeah. And the person who has come to her rescue is our MMC. His name is Harley Kouris. He is Greek, or of Greek heritage. And Maisie is on the phone listening to the most adorable fucking meet cute that happens between Kaylee and Harley, who is here to rescue her from her perch atop a felled tree. And she is just ornery as a fucking hellcat. She doesn't want his help. She's still freaked out. She's obviously already very emotionally vulnerable because her boyfriend fucked a barista this morning.
Don't you know?
And now she was almost killed by a moose. Like, it's just too much. So,
and everything happens in threes.
Yeah.
So this is how I die.
Yeah. And so eventually Maisie has to like pipe up and be like, honey, he sounds hot. You should let him help you. And busted, because that shit was on speakerphone. So the tension kind of breaks when she's like, yeah, no, you're right. He is pretty hot and I am really screwed. So yeah, you can help me. This is Harley Kouris. He is a forest ranger, which is different than a park ranger. Yeah. He is more of a conservationist, a guide, a lumberjack. He cares for the trees in the forest, and he does a lot of search and rescue. Harley is very big. He's dark-haired. He's bearded, mountain man style, book boyfriend. So, you know, he's probably wearing flannel when he's not wearing Carhartt. He's what happens if you turn a Burmese mountain dog into a person. Like, he's very sort of chill and calm. He wants to be by himself in a cabin. He's very opposite of Kaylee, hence the opposites attract trope. She ends up agreeing to accept Harley's help. They call a tow. They get the car into town. He takes her into town. She's like, I don't want to just go off with you because you are still just a strange man in the woods. And like, yes, you're wearing a uniform, but that doesn't help.
See, also cops.
So he gives her the number for the local dispatch, and she talks to an older lady who runs the dispatch, and she's like, oh no, honey, he's a pussycat. He's totally fine. So now that she has some reassurance from an elder woman, she's like, okay, you can help me. And she starts Googling things. She starts Googling
Harley.
Actually, no. She starts Googling.
She just took the word of the woman.
Rental cars
Gotcha.
and places to stay. She's more concerned about herself than him at this moment. And he is unfortunately the one that has to tell her the only bed and breakfast in town is not open. I know their website says they are, but it's owned by a boomer snowbird who doesn't know how to shut her website off in the winter. It's not open. And the rental car place doesn't open again until Monday. But I don't know if you noticed while you were driving like an absolute maniac, we are under a blizzard watch. The storm that's rolling in is going to be very bad. I doubt you're going to be able to get out of here anytime soon. Normally, Harley would not make an offer like the one that he makes, which is come stay at my home with me. Normally, he would drop them off in town and say, good luck to you. I got you back to town. That's my job.
Yep.
But he is absolutely fascinated by this woman, completely besotted with her. We are like 15% of the way through the book at this point, and it's all just pages and pages of deeply philosophical imaginings of her and her perfection and her beauty and how much she intrigues him and interests him and how it scares him. Like, oh my God, this man was down so bad from the moment he met her. But he is terrified of how a small town will treat a situation like this. So he takes her into town and he drops her off at the local general store, which is, a combination, everything you can possibly need in a small town store. And he goes to the shop to talk to his buddy Dane, the mechanic, about her car. And the subtext that Dane picks up on pretty fast is, could you maybe not look at it super hard right away? Could you maybe get me a little more time with her? And he feels bad about it. He's like, why the fuck am I thinking why am I thinking with my dick at a time like this? Why am I trying to get more time with this woman that I just met in a fucking tree?
I was just going to say, I met this woman in a tree.
Yeah. He is kicking himself like up one side and down the other for how he is thinking about this woman, but he can't help himself. And so Dane is like, yeah, okay, well, it'll take a couple of days to get parts anyway, so I will call with an update in a few days. How's that? Yeah, absolutely. In the general store, Kaylee picks up like whatever clothes will fit, basically, that they happen to have there. So it's all like emblazoned with Pine Bluff.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Just a big silhouette of Maine or whatever.
I love, those are the kind of shirts that you always see like in resort towns. Like you can tell, like it just has like the name of some resort town.
Yes.
And there's a woman that I see. You do pick up and drop off for your kids at school. You see the same parents over and over again. There's a woman that picks up her kids that I cross paths with a lot. She has one that's similar. It's like one of those sweatshirts that kind of like billows out on the side, you know what I mean? And it has that similar font, but it looks like it's supposed to be for sports teams. It just says, I hope both teams had fun.
Oh my God, that's great. I love that. I want that.
I know it's totally your vibe.
It's me coded. That sounds so me coded.
Exactly. It's like, it looks like it should be worn by a 64-year-old grandmother, and it should say Rehoboth Beach, but it actually just says, I hope both teams had fun.
That's great. Rehoboth Beach. That's funny.
Thank you.
Okay, so she finishes up her shop, and I think she buys all the stuff to make him chicken parmesan as a thank you for letting her stay in his cabin. And she also buys a box of condoms just to be safe, like just in case. She's getting vibes off this guy. And at first she feels kind of ashamed about it. And then she's like, no shame. No shame. If I want to have sex, I'll have fucking sex with this guy.
I just found Tyler dicking down a barista.
Exactly. So it's fine. So she buys all the stuff, and then she goes back out to the car where Harley is there waiting for her. And he has gotten pizza from a place called Yeti Spaghetti, which is a great name. And they drive back to his cabin, which is even further out on the other side of town. The snow's already starting to fall. The roads are really windy. And Kaylee is showing signs of being really anxious. So he reaches out and he grabs her hand. The sparks are immediate. And she feels so much safer being in his truck with him than she has in weeks, really. When she thinks about it, her life kind of sucks, and now in this moment everything feels peaceful and it smells like hot man and pizza, you know. It's great. They get to know each other a little more. They talk about their work. Throughout the book, Kaylee is peppering in stories of her life. She had this very vagabondy kind of childhood. I wrote it all down. But the summary is basically, so she was born to biker hippies, and they lived a transient lifestyle as a kid. Then her parents got divorced, and her mom settled down in Austin, Texas, and that's where she went to finish her education. She went to high school there. Mm-hmm. That's where she met her best friend, Maisie. She finished out all of her adolescence there. She went to her life sounds like your life.
Oh boy.
So then she went to massage therapy school and decided to be a massage therapist on a cruise ship until she found out that that's actual slave labor and it fucking sucks. So she came home and she decided to just kind of pal around for a while and ended up working at an alien museum in New Mexico and really getting into yoga. And then she decided if she loved yoga so much, she might as well learn how to teach yoga. So she moved to India for 3 months and she learned how to teach yoga. And then she came back to the United States and she was doing that, teaching yoga, like naked under the moon, sisterhood coven kind of yoga. And then at some point she realized that if she didn't want to join a cult, which is what happens when white women get too into yoga, she decided to go to college. So she and Maisie went to college in their I'm guessing at this point they were in their early 20s, in Florida, where they lived with Kaylee's grandmother. They lived there for 4 years. They went to college, and then Kaylee's grandma got sick and they nursed her through her death. And right after she died and they graduated, she went back to Texas with Maisie to help her start her own business, which is a sex toy shop called Pretty Kitty. And that's amazing. Good job, Pretty Kitty. I fucking love it. Once that was off of the ground and everything in that situation finished up, Maisie's first husband was abusive, and so she got her through that situation. And then her father was in a major motorcycle accident in New England, and so she came out here to take care of him. And then she got friendly with the hospital staff and wound up working in hospital administration until she got headhunted into recruiting.
Yep,
that sounds like your life.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I mean, obviously the details are different, but I lived a very scattershot.
Yeah. A similarly wild life.
Yes.
It's, it started with having to be the head of your house when you were 12 and just kept fucking going from there. Yeah. Holy shit, brother.
We'll tell that story on a different podcast.
Something. Anyway.
On one where you're supposed to feel sad every now and then.
Yeah. So now that we have all of that information about Kaylee, we understand why she is such a complex and complicated person. And all of that sort of comes out over a few chapters of getting to know you, discourse at the cabin. Harley's cabin is really lovely. He built it himself by hand. He sourced all of the materials from the area. His friends helped. He put in all of the sweat. His mantle is made out of a piece of wood that was struck by lightning that he found in the forest. He wanted this place to feel very much like it just sort of fell out of the forest, as natural as possible, because he prefers to be outside. It's the most gorgeous sounding cabin I've ever heard of. It sounds amazing. They walk around. He gives her a tour at one point. She makes fun of him for decorating with dead animals because it's a cabin. So there's deer heads and antlers and stuff. And he says, hey, you can't be into the whole lumberjack flannel man of the woods thing if you don't want the hunter part, because it's part of the culture here.
Yeah.
We hunt for food. There's venison in my freezer. And she's like, okay, fine, I am chastened. They have dinner that night and she falls asleep on the couch while he goes out to prep firewood and stuff. He carries her to bed like the gentleman that he is, and he sleeps out on the sofa. The next morning, she gets up and gets herself going and snoops around the house. He has had to go to work, so she's left alone for the morning. She calls Maisie to check in, tell her about what happened with Tyler, tell her that she is now safe and that something is happening with this lumberjack in the woods named Harley. While she is doing that, Harley runs into town. He goes to work. He checks in with Dane about Kaylee's car as he does his rounds through the woods. When he gets back home, they have a very sweet, long, cozy chat. where most of that backstory stuff that I told happens. This is where Harley tells Kaylee that he is from Pine Bluff. His father is retired. He used to own the local hardware store, which is now owned by his brother. And his mother is a sex therapist who is constantly embarrassing him when she puts up flyers around town for her yoni steam for vaginal dryness, like consultations. I love her. She drives him crazy. I won't be talking about her much more, but the few times that she is in this book, I am like, you are the greatest. I love her so much. She's a geriatric sex positive woman. Mm-hmm. Great. He also has a little sister. They don't really talk about that much more. They have a really cute conversation about his Greek heritage. He does speak Greek. He fantasizes about Kaylee and pristine Greek beaches for a while. That was fun. At some point during this conversation, there was this really fun moment. He was sitting across from her in his living room, and he said, okay, well, now that I'm home and you don't need me to go out for anything else, I am going to disarm. He's a ranger. He has to carry a gun. So he takes his sidearm off of his hip, and he takes the clip out, safety on, etc. And she goes, oh, okay, well, if we're doing that, and she reaches into her bra and she pulls out the knife that she carries in her bra. She has a titty knife because of course she does. She's still in the woods with a man who is mostly a stranger. Yeah. So yeah, I'm also armed. So now I am also disarmed. And he is totally taken aback by that. He's like, what the fuck? The last thing I expected to come out of your bra is a knife.
Like, number one, titties.
Titties.
And two, maybe cash.
Yeah. Like if you use it as a wallet, you might keep stuff in there, like your credit card.
Three, a vape.
A vape.
But,
if you're me.
Yeah. But
there's a vape in there all the time.
Not a knife.
I know. I feel like I need to get a titty knife. Although.
Well, Christmas is coming up.
So the thing is that I imagine that Kaylee has much bigger titties than me, because I feel like a titty knife wouldn't look right.
It would ruin the lines.
It would ruin the lines of my rather small boobs. Like they're not huge, and that's fine, but they just don't conceal weapons as well as bigger titties do.
Yeah.
You know?
Hi, welcome to Titty Talk.
Titty Talk with Carl and Katie. Throughout this whole conversation, the energy was really fun and flirty. Kaylee then asks if Harley has ever had his tarot read before. Of course he hasn't. He's a lumberjack from Maine. No,
read the room.
But he is interested in it, and he sees how excited she is by the prospect of reading his cards that he's like, absolutely. They light candles. She does her rune carving. She has him, center and get into his happy place. And then she pulls a Celtic cross spread for him, which is a sort of general life path spread. So like people who read tarot will understand that sometimes cards are eerily accurate about things when they shouldn't be. And you're like, no, you're just cards. That's what this scene was like.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to read. Like the whole time Harley is just having this like internal freak down. Like, why does Kaylee seem to have empathy and understanding for situations that she knows absolutely nothing about? And why is she giving perfect advice related to topics that she's never heard of before? How can she be so accurately reading me for filth through these cards right now? And the cards, because they always do in high tension moments, basically just lay them both out raw. And by the end of it, so this is the reading that they get. I'm not going to tell you all the cards, but a good man with a good heart, held back by his own instinctual fear after a series of painful losses. A man torn between his desire and his obligations. A sudden change. A decisive action which brought feminine sensual presence into his life. And the final card that turned over, the lovers. So they're both like, oh, okay. So the cards said fuck. Like the cards just said, you guys are gonna fuck.
Right.
Holy shit. And so they kind of step away from each other because it's a little overwhelming for both of them. They go about their evening just sort of dancing around each other. Harley cleans the kitchen. Kaylee deals with some shitty text that she's been getting from Tyler. She sends him one final like fuck off paragraph, and then he says, I'm not going to read that. Which is such such dude behavior. All of his texts are like, I'm an alpha. You have to understand. I have needs, you whore. And you're just like, oh my God. I can imagine how small your dick is. I can imagine.
Right? Just, God, the dissatisfaction.
So the tension inside of Kaylee kind of comes to a head, and she has this weird breakdown about not being the right kind of girl for Harley because she keeps at some point she also pulled out her crystals during the reading, so because she keeps titty rocks and titty knives and hates black coffee, and he once did the whole Appalachian Trail in 6 months and built his own tables by hand. You know, she's an emotional wreck and hurt. She's very manic, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about, woman? Calm down. He ultimately just kisses her. I don't know what the fuck you think.
I have nothing else to do here but kiss you.
Yeah. And the kiss is amazing, but he pulls away really fast, saying, you're hurt. You're in a strange place. You're obviously emotionally like very volatile. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. And then he walks away. She goes to bed. He stays up snoozing, and he keeps the fire going. And so he can't fully fall asleep because the fire is lit. That's just how Harley is. If the fire is going, he can't sleep.
Same.
Yeah. And when morning rolls around, Kaylee is there, and she's being just sweet and delightful. And it isn't long before they are right back into the sexual tension that they were trying to escape from yesterday. And Harley is kissing her again. They make out for a while. He does pull away again, and he leaves the house to go and get some air at that point. He's like, holy fuck, I need to shove snow down my pants or something.
I've been there.
Yeah. So he goes for a while, and Kaylee, she does some stuff around the house. Throughout this book, there's a lot of like random domestic labor that needs to be done by the both of them. I know a few different times she talks to her mom at one point. She talks to Maisie a couple of times. She's not fully isolated in this house. They have cell service. Eventually, they do lose power and Wi-Fi. He has a generator that they turn on every now and again to charge their phones up so that they can keep in communication. Eventually, she gets tired of puttering around the house waiting for him to come back. The sexual tension is tensioning through the roof right now. And so she goes outside to try and find him. And she finds him chopping wood. There's a scene of her just watching him vigorously chop wood for like a solid 10 minutes of him just swinging an axe, getting sweaty. He's getting out all of this tension. And she's just like biting her lip and rubbing her thighs together because holy shit. Until eventually he looks up and he's like, do you like what you see? And she says, I don't know. Do you like what you see? And then she flashes him and runs inside. And he chases her. And he
a little primal play.
Not really primal play, but definitely adorable, playful behavior. He runs after her and he pounces, and they have some absolutely awesome sex about it. Timeline wise, they have been in each other's presence for about 48 hours at this point. Harley has one rule in the bedroom. You come before I ever get inside of you. It's a fantastic rule. We love this rule. Eventually they do negotiate that rule, but he got it from She Comes First, the book, which is at the top by Dr. Ian Kemper, PhD or something like that.
Dr. Ian Malcolm? No, that's not the right guy.
No, but I bet you he would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he eats her out. She comes twice, and then they have this really rough and sensual sex until they both finish. It's totally awesome. They do use they use the condoms. It comes up in conversation at some point that they are both sexually healthy and clean, but they are choosing to continue to use condoms until such time as they decide not to. Kaylee also has a birth control implant, so she's protected from pregnancy. They have dinner. And then they have round 2 and they fall asleep. The next morning, Kaylee rides him on the couch, and then they have chocolate chip pancakes.
Wow.
What a fucking morning.
Right?
They cuddle up, and Kaylee starts to get kind of snoozy, and she starts to fall asleep on his chest while they're like watching TV or something. But he says, hey, just so you know, like I can tell you're holding something back, and when you're ready to talk about it, I would love to hear about it. And she freezes up because she does not want to tell Harley about the Tyler situation at all. She hasn't told him anything about why she's here, what brought her to Maine. She just keeps saying she was going for a drive to clear her head. And he is not pressing on that. But she doesn't want to taint this experience or this time with the drama of her real life at this point. So she's just keeping it all really close to the vest. Super healthy. Anyway, Harley has to go out for the afternoon to do some rangery stuff, and he leaves her. So she does some yoga, she reads, she takes a nap. When she wakes up, Harley has left her a sandwich, and so she eats that sandwich, and then she goes to his workshop. He has like a barn on the back of his property, or connected to the back of his house, where he does all of his woodworking. He's got a boat, like an aluminum outboard motor fishing boat that hangs from the ceiling. She goes out to the wood shop, and she sees all the cool stuff that he has. They talk about the trees and the wood and his lumberjack stuff and how it relates to his woodworking. And they have a long conversation about the furniture in his home. He feels like she understands and appreciates the work that he has done more than other people may when they look at his home. And he is really touched by how clearly she sees him, how clearly she sees what's important to him. And eventually things get really hot and heavy again. It's sexy time. She's wearing a Jimi Hendrix t-shirt, so he makes her a bet. If he can guess her favorite song, he's going to make her come until he's bored. And she says, okay, but if you can't, then I'm going to play with myself while you watch until you cry.
Does she eventually reveal what it is?
Yes.
Wind Cries Mary.
No.
Damn. Okay.
It's Voodoo Child's Slight Return.
Okay. Kind of basic, but a great song.
So he gets it right, and then he hoists her up onto his workbench, and he eats her out for a while before he fucks her again. And they finish. It's awesome, but ultimately they have to stop because Kaylee gets a splinter in her butt.
Oh no!
Yeah. On a workbench, man, a woodworking bench.
I was just gonna say, I guess Harley wasn't giving her enough wood. She needed a little sliver in her ass of it.
I guess.
Something boner joke. I don't know.
But it is truly unacceptable treatment of her ass.
It's true.
Let's be fair.
If we did that and you got a splinter in your ass, I would burn the bench.
Oh, thank you.
I'd smash it to bits and then burn it and then build a new one.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Sand it better.
Okay. Thank you. Keep it cleaner.
Yeah, a little cleaner, maybe polyurethane coat.
Yeah.
Something.
Oh, thanks. You're so sweet to me.
Of course.
So they finish their workshop sex scene. It's awesome. This is a very high heat book. All of these scenes are several pages long, and they are very sensual and intimate and emotional. Maggie, you have a skill for writing porn. Good job. I'm proud of you.
And we would love to talk about it more, but we have limited time in which to do so.
Yeah. So they start getting dressed, and he goes to stoke the fire on the other end of the workshop, and then she gets this intuitive tingle of panic up her spine, and she's like, wait, come back here. Come right now. And he immediately does, and as soon as he is next to her, the wind blows really hard. It rattles the rafters, and the boat comes unmoored on one side and swings down right where he would have been.
Her spider sense.
Her spider sense is tingling. And she starts freaking out because usually when men get that close of a look at intuition, they get mad or they get confused or scared. It happens to her a lot. Happens to most any woman who has had an intuitive experience has been told by a man that it's not real. And it sucks. But he is like, holy shit, thank you so much. I can't. You're psychic and a witch, and you used it to protect me. Thank you so much.
That's tight as fuck.
Yeah, and she's really moved by how accepting he is of her, and it's a really beautiful moment for them. In the next scene, Kaylee is prepping and cooking her famous chicken parmesan for Harley. This is it's a gesture of gratitude, not just for the dick, although we are thankful for it, but for the time and attention and care and understanding that he has given to her in just a couple of days. They enjoy their meal. They eat truly delicious sounding chicken parm and have a bottle of wine. They have another really long, lovely conversation. They talk about favorite albums, favorite foods, star signs. Eventually they get to a point where they're talking about past relationships, and Harley admits that his last relationship was in college, and it ultimately ended when he realized that they wanted drastically different things. When they were done with college, she wanted my life. She wanted suburbia, children, a very small social life in suburban America. He did not want any of that, especially kids. This is where they have the conversation where where neither one of them wants to have children. Kaylee is kind of scared because even though he says he doesn't want to have them, once a woman says she doesn't want to have them, sometimes he gets mad.
Oh, yeah.
But no.
Because only he can change his mind.
Exactly. She's supposed to have kids. He's the one who gets to decide, right?
Yeah.
No. They're both on the exact same page. My only question is why Harley hasn't gotten a vasectomy. But, well, they'll work on that later.
Yeah, well, because conversely, speaking on it from the male perspective, a lot of times urologists won't do it or like will push back hard on it if you don't have kids.
That is true. Okay. Yes, that is true. It's becoming less difficult now.
Yes.
To get a sterilization procedure. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It is harder. It is harder when they're like, but what if your future wife wants kids? Well, then she won't be my future wife because I won't want a wife with children. I mean, ugh. Eventually this conversation turns flirtatious and then eventually fully heated again. And they have more incredible sex, this time by the fire. They're all surrounded by furs and blankets. This was like 20 pages long and it was mind-blowing the entire time. There's an art to making it that engaging for that long. And at some point I was like, holy shit, they've only really been having sex for like maybe a few minutes. But all of the descriptions are so intense that it's wow. It's just holy. Okay. I will stop. I will breathe. Okay. After that awesome sex, they snuggle up and their pillow talk morphs into this like delightfully teasy, playful wrestling thing, which then gets right into the next round where she gets on top and goes for a full-on goddess ride. Like Bilquis would be proud of you. Full-on goddess ride. And that was great. After that, they doze off and on for some interminable amount of time. The power goes out. And now they are in total isolation, staying close to the fire, cuddling to stay warm. At some point, they have like another languid fuck in the middle of the night. But mostly, Harley lays in front of the fire with Kaylee and just thinks and thinks and thinks about his life up until this point, about how he left Pine Bluff and found love and then ultimately left her because she wanted the suburban comfort. Dude is running from everyone. And Kaylee is starting to make him realize that, and she's also starting to make him question whether or not he wants to continue to run. Big emotional journey is happening inside of these people. Anyway, he eventually decides that they need to go to a real bed so she can get a more comfortable night's sleep. And so he piles up the bed with all the blankets and furs that they have been, sleeping and fucking in. Sounds so fucking cozy.
A pile of fuck furs.
Yep. And they go to sleep until he wakes up in the middle of the night having had a weird nightmare. And her phone is going crazy, buzzing and lighting up the room. He goes to just turn it off, but the screen lights up and it's a picture. And it's a very lewd picture. And he's like, I can't not.
Yeah.
So he taps on the picture. It's Tyler, like in a sex club or something. Dick out. Weird looking dick too, apparently. No surprise. And
that's a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
No.
And then just like a stream of the most insane man baby alpha bro bullshit text messages that you've ever read. He gets super pissed, and initially he wants to send a picture of his own dick back and be like, don't worry, she's better off now. But he knows that's immature and not going to help anyone. So he just silences the phone, turns it over, puts himself back to bed next to Kaylee and says, being here with her is better revenge. Yeah. So whatever. The next morning he wakes up and she is cooking him breakfast. So he goes out and she's doing a cute little dancey dance in the kitchen and just like a long t-shirt and tall socks, super hot.
Yeah.
And he asks her about Tyler. He has no intention of keeping the fact that he saw her phone a secret.
Of course not. He's a good person.
Yeah. And she is initially mad because Harley went through her phone. She gets really pissed and they have an argument about it. But then he says, can you please just look at the text messages before you start getting mad at me? Because what I saw made me need to look. And so she does. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I understand why you were compelled to look at this. Don't do it again. And he's like, no, I know. I'm sorry. I am sorry for invading your privacy. This was a very healthy conversation. And ultimately, she tells him about her relationship with Tyler. She does not tell him that it ended a couple of days ago when he was fucking the barista. That part does not come out. That conversation ends when Kaylee's phone rings and it's her mom. So she has been gone for long enough without telling her mom what's going on that now it's time for her to fill her in. So she has a long conversation with her mother, and Harley goes to his office to do some like actual real life work stuff. When they have the generator going, they can I think they piggyback off of a cell phone to do some email kind of stuff. Throughout the book, she's also in communication with her boss, who is pretty cool about the fact that she has a sudden emergency and isn't in town, but is still up her ass trying to get her to come back to work because it's corporate America.
Yeah.
After Kaylee finishes her phone call, she comes in to check on him in his office, and she gives him a blowjob. And my girl has skills. She has serious dick sucking skills. I'm proud of her. She also did this really clever thing where she would take a big gulp of coffee so her mouth got really hot first and then go back. It was really fun.
Kaylee, that's so nice.
So she got a little frisky with the temperature play. It was really fun. He comes in her mouth and then she walks away all smug and to clean up, just like, bye, see you later. And he chases after her and grabs her and throws her on the bed. Like, no, absolutely not. This scene was like full on feral. This is the part where he realizes that underneath her long t-shirt and tall socks, she's not wearing anything else. And so he's like, oh, fuck. You have to sit on my face. Like, you have to sit on my face. And she has the big girl response of, but what if I kill you?
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die.
Exactly. Yep. I think his response is, well, then I will die doing what I love.
Yes.
But yes.
I hope that's how I go.
He pulls her down onto his face and she goes for the beard ride of her life. Man, I was so proud of her. Worldview forever shifted, I am sure. Like, she's never been in this situation and it has changed her. He then pulls her down to ride him and she's like, do you trust me? And he's like, well, my dick's inside of you, so I hope so. And
weird time to ask.
And she spins herself around on him without ever actually getting off of his dick. And quote of the book, he shouts, what in the flexible fairy fuckery was that? That's hilarious.
Well, it's just a 180-degree turn, bro.
Yeah, well, she a full sit and spin. That's wild.
Yeah.
So they finish in a reverse cowgirl. Harley's worldview fully shifted, life changed, rearranged. I am sure of it. After that, they snuggle up and they have their pillow talk. This time they talk about their skin. They compare their stretch marks, their birthmarks, their scars, their stories. Harley tells a really, truly devastating story about a climbing accident he was in it when he was 13 that resulted in him being pinned underneath a rock alone for several hours, and needing several surgeries and rehab to be able to walk again. From there, the conversation gets super heavy and he starts talking about all of the really horrible things that he has seen in his time as a forest ranger, because it's mostly search and rescue. It's not poison ivy and teaching kids about wood boring beetles, it's finding bodies. And he has been scarred by that. And Kaylee holds him and she listens and she empathizes with him in a way that I don't think anyone really has before. And he feels safe, and he's almost disoriented by how he doesn't realize it yet, but how in love he is with this woman. She kisses his scars. He almost cries. Like, holy shit. And then my notes say, we are 65% of the way through this book, and I still can't tell if the last third is going to be a lazy river or a fucking roller coaster, but let's find out.
I hope it's fun.
It was fun. So the next scene is a very common experience for all humans. It's time to overthink in the shower. Kaylee takes a shower and her brain spirals for a whole chapter.
I do my best overthinking in the shower.
God, absolutely. So for the first time in her life, she is actually dreading the idea of leaving a man. Like, that's weird for her. Not just like sad that their time is coming to an end, but genuine dread about leaving this place. And she can't decide if it's because she's actually happy here or if it's because she was so miserable in Boston that she just would be happier anywhere else. And she doesn't know where she stands with Harley. Does he see her as like a fun fuck over a long snowy week? Or is there something more to this? Is she just a fun diversion in a blizzard? The snow is still falling. She can't run away. Her car's still in the shop. She should be missing the modern conveniences of city life. But more and more, she just keeps catching herself daydreaming about life would be like, about what life would be like with Harley. She's having visions of him just sitting on the porch in a rocking chair and everyday mundane things, big life events, everything from like going to the DMV to seeing him go gray. And she considers that she thinks about Harley and what she knows to be true about him, how playful he is, how sweet and how intimate he is, how earnest he seems to be, how genuine. She can't catch any bad vibes off of him. So she decides that what she needs to do is position herself to get a better handle on how she feels about Harley when they're not naked, so that she can get a better idea of how Harley feels about her when she's not naked, basically. She does a few more domestic things, answers some emails from her boss. I think at this point we're at maybe Wednesday. I don't even really know what day it is. I don't think they do either. She checks in with Maisie just to let her know that everything is all right. And then Harley wakes up and he comes into the living room to greet her. And they like briefly discuss the storm. And Harley says that the worst of it is supposed to be over by tonight. The implication being that their time together is almost over. And the energy takes a very awkward turn. Kaylee feels like this is a good opportunity to tell Harley that she thinks they should hold off on doing anything physical. And so he does. He agrees immediately, but he is also incredibly confused and upset, and he storms out of the, like, she says it's not anything that you did. And he's like, how can it not be anything I've done when all I've done for the past 2 days is you? Like, how can this not be my fault? But instead of staying to talk about it, he throws on his coveralls and a beanie and he leaves. He is a runner just like she is. Tensions are so crazy high. Kaylee stays behind. She cries for a while. 1 second she's feeling happy and safe here, and the next thing she's thinking about work and Boston and leaving. She can't get herself, like, she can't pull herself in one direction, and now she knows she's giving him mixed signals, but she can't help herself because she's feeling what she's feeling. It's very complicated. She decides what she wants to do is check in on her car. She's not feeling like she has enough control of her own life right now, so she wants to check in on her car. So she calls she finds the number for Dane's auto shop and she calls him, and she learns that her car has been totaled, that there is no way of saving it, and an adjuster needs to come out and sign off on a check for her. She also learns that they have known this information for like 3 days and no one has told her this, and she is so pissed.
I'd burn that building to the ground.
Swear to Christ. So eventually Harley comes back and they have a fight, like a fight. It was like 2 chapters of fight, which again it's an art form. This long, really bad communication filled couples conversation was giving me PTSD to the fights that we have had about shit.
Yeah.
Like, holy moly, this was really, really intense. So eventually they get to the point where they're defending their own positions and too angry to possibly listen to each other. And Harley ends up saying some shit that's just really fucking mean. At this point in the argument, I thought that they were over the worst of it, but this chapter was in Kaylee's point of view. So I think Kaylee thought they were over the worst of it. And then he leaned in and said some even meaner shit and twisted the knife. And she was like, what the fuck, dude? Holy shit. They were both completely blindsided. He leaves. He just leaves right out the front door, and she's left crying again. And Harley goes outside basically pacing his property like a wild animal. He knows that what he did was wrong. He knows that what he said to her was too mean. But from his perspective, after all the vulnerability of talking about his accident and the anguish of his job and like all of that, the very next thing he gets is, I don't want to have sex with you anymore. And that stung his pride. And then the last straw was her calling Dane behind, quote unquote, behind his back to arrange her escape, is how he sees it. So obviously that's no more true than the obnoxious and anxious thoughts that Kaylee is having about Harley, but they are both losing their shit in their own personal traumas. He eventually goes back inside and they spend the rest of the day like in this really low energy haze. I think they like watch Grey's Anatomy and eat dinner and don't talk to each other. That night when she wants to go to bed, he asks if he can come and tuck her in still, even if they're not going to sleep in the same bed. And she agrees, and she starts crying as soon as she hits the pillow, and he holds her. She's just like weeping for life, just how hard things are. You know, sometimes I'm just like, life is just really hard, you know, and you just need to cry about it. Mm-hmm. He holds her and lets her cry about it until she falls asleep. And then he lays there with her all night. He doesn't sleep. He just lays there. The next day they go for a snowmobile ride and they visit his favorite tree, which was very cute. And eventually they like make a little picnic on a stump and they share coffee and they talk about the forest and the birds and the wildlife. Harley says that the worst thing about the forest is actually the people because they're stupid. You know, bears aren't going to decide to light off illegal fireworks on vacation, you know, or put a toddler in their own kayak. Raccoons don't go streaking, you know. It's not. He has a disdain for tourists, and that turns the conversation because it sparks a concern in Kaylee that she is a tourist in his life, like a distraction, just passing through. She has noticed this as a pattern in her own life. Men think of her as this manic kooky witchy girl. She's there to provide spice and bring passion to their life until they realize that she's a full fucking human being with a life and emotions, and then they ditch her. She doesn't want that again. Harley makes it clear that he has never thought of her in that way. He gives a really beautiful and impassioned speech about how it doesn't matter how long she stays. He has prioritized her because he wants her to be there, because he likes her, all of her. And she's like, okay, so maybe not having sex was a bad idea. And
but we very clearly said no takesies backsies.
So then they start making out and he like lays her across the snowmobile. They start getting naked. She wants to have sex right there. She's like, please, I'm not that cold. And he's like, yes, you fucking are. Put your clothes on. I'll go fuck you at the cabin. So
there's icicles on your twat. Let's go.
So they get back on the snowmobile and they start heading back to the cabin. And on their way back, they realize that an SUV is following them up the back roads. And when it gets closer, she looks inside and realizes that Tyler is driving this SUV. And he chases them all the way back to Harley's cabin.
What the fuck?
I know.
Lunatic behavior.
Truly maidenless. Truly. But
yeah.
I can't. It's just insane. So she posted a picture of the Yeti spaghetti box from the first night they ate pizza because she just thought it was cute. And he stalked her Instagram to find for any information, found out where she was staying, called the local something or other to get gossip basically, and found her.
All of a sudden he's really into geoguessing.
Yeah. But why? Like, to what end? I still don't understand it.
Because of his fifis.
So he chases them in his SUV, driving like an absolute maniac until they get to the cabin. They come to a stop. Harley's like, get in the cabin, but she won't. Tyler gets out of the SUV. They have a confrontation. Kaylee steps in between them to prevent a fight, but ultimately Tyler ends up grabbing her by the braid and pulling her hair, and that's not okay. So Harley beats the piss out of this man. Then at some point, Tyler went to the back of the SUV and got a tire iron, and Harley was like, motherfucker, you're in the woods. And he got a 12 gauge out of the back of his truck.
Yep.
And then they had a melee fight with these weapons. Harley ends up, again, beating the piss out of Tyler some more, swinging the butt of the rifle like a baseball bat and dislocating his jaw.
Goddamn right.
Until he finally gets him pinned up against the side of the SUV and he's choking Tyler into unconsciousness. His jaw is like hanging off. Kaylee's in the back screaming, stop it, you're going to kill him.
That's the point.
And eventually he lets the guy go because he can't he's a federal agent. He can't commit a murder. Like, basically, he lets him go and he tells him, don't come back because I know how to get rid of your body in these woods.
I know every inch of these woods.
They will never find you. The only reason that I am saying go now is because Kaylee told me to let you go. Yep. So get on out of here. And as he is leaving, Kaylee, who is still holding the like Stanley thermos full of coffee that they were drinking on their date earlier, goes up to him and tells him, don't fuck with me because I know curses that will shrivel your balls. Do not mess with me, man. His threats are nothing compared to mine. And he turns to go get in the SUV, but he says something under his breath. I think he calls her a bitch. And so she underhand swings that Stanley thermos like a softball right into his nuts.
Damn right. Those things.
Ooh. Oh, man. It was amazing. It was beautiful. So he finally drives away. And Kaylee takes Harley inside and she takes him into the shower and she washes him off. She tends his busted knuckles, gets all the blood out of his beard and hair because Tyler was like literally spitting blood at them at one point.
Tyler's a bleeder.
And she thanks him profusely for taking care of her. And then they have sex about it. I mean, this is a real major catharsis. Obviously, something very terrifying and painful just happened. This is also the first time they decide to have sex without a condom. They both absolutely love it. It was like a super intense, look me in the eyes, come at the same time, we're seeing God, the world is forever changed kind of sex. Afterward, they eat dinner and they have a very heavy conversation where Kaylee tells Harley everything about Tyler, their recent breakup, her string of difficult life events, and her misery in Boston, and like how happy she is with him. Not just because she's stuck here, but because she feels like maybe she actually belongs someplace for the first time ever. She's trying really hard to convince him that she's not rebounding with him, and they don't know where things are going to go from here. And it's only been a few days, but she wants him to know that she cares about him. And this is where they drop the I love yous. Both of them say it to each other. We are at the last 25% of the book, which is mostly wrap up. So Harley goes to town to the clinic to get his hand treated because one of his busted knuckles is going to need stitches. His sister, Chessie, works there as a nurse. She then FaceTimes their mother, and both women like get the skinny on Kaylee from Harley at the same time because he's been keeping her a secret in town, trying to keep the town gossips off her back. And so now they have the opportunity to like get all of the information, and they give him their advice. Mom says, talk to her, fight for her, use the sex swing I got you. And Chessie says, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom. And Chessie says, you seem a lot happier and a lot calmer. If she thinks you're just a fling, then you need to stop acting like one and prove her wrong.
Damn.
Oh shit! The women in your life are wise. Fuck.
Oh, she just threw that hot tea in your face.
Yeah. Then he goes for a nice long walk along the creek. He thinks about Kaylee. He does basically like a pro list. There are no cons. He loves this woman. He finds a really cool crescent moon shaped rock on the creek bed, and he gets it. He picks it up to take it home for her. Yes, cool rocks, cool rock presents. This is amazing.
I have several of them on my computer that my son has picked up.
Yeah.
He's like, here's a rock, Dad. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Cool rocks are the best. They have a really lovely moment under the moon where he gives her that rock. They snuggle in for the rest of the night. All the feelings are really heavy, but Harley has now conveyed that he wishes that she would stay. She is still fighting against something internally. And as they fall asleep, they each, this is where they say their I love yous. They each confess their I love yous. The next day, they go to town to visit Dane and get the car situation taken care of. While Harley helps Dane with something, she decides to go to the local salon and get a nail fill. And I think, honestly, just be in a feminine space for the first time in a while. Yeah. And while she's there, she's getting her fill. She meets a really sweet girl named Frankie, and they become fast friends. They decide they're going to go out to lunch together. So she and Frankie walk back to the garage to tell Harley what their plans are. And she's like, this is my new friend, Frankie. And he's like, yeah. She's my sister. That's Chessie. Francesca is her name. And she has wiggled her way into into Kaylee's life at Harley's disapproval. After that happens, Kaylee has a realization. Harley has never once been seen in town with her. Mm-hmm. He was there at the crash site and he drove her into town. But he didn't go into the convenience store with her. He didn't go into the auto shop with her. He didn't take her out on ranger business. He always asked her to stay in the cabin. Not when he went to the clinic to get stitches on his busted knuckles did he even want her to be there. She was like, okay, I'm going. We'll go to the clinic. And he was like, no, stay here. And that's when she realizes, holy fuck, this man is hiding me. He is hiding me from town. And she has a full-blown spiral panic attack. It has touched this deeply seated nerve about how men don't really like her. They just like the idea of her. She has this screaming fit. She calls him all sorts of horrible names. Like, she truly lost her shit. Oh my God, this woman. And at the end of it, she tells him, goodbye. I'm done. I'm never going to see you again. Fuck you for trying to hide me. And she goes back to Dane's shop where she barters. So she keeps in her trunk, she keeps a bottle of whiskey and $500 in cash. Her father said that if you had those two things, you'll be fine.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So she barters with that for a piece of shit 1993 Corsica, and she drives away. And she, on the way out of town, sees that same fucking moose, and she starts scream crying. And she basically does that all the way back to Boston. And that is the wildest third act breakup I've ever read, because that was actually like we're in like the last 90%. Holy fuck.
Yeah, that is wild.
I was the whiplash is real. Maybe that's why my neck hurts so much. Holy shit. So anyway, after that, both of them entered depression zone, population them, for the next couple of weeks. For like 3 days, Harley doesn't even leave his house. And then eventually he goes to talk to his brother. He has a whole major, deeply angsty backstory with his brother that I'm not getting into. You can read the books if you want to know more about it. And he starts to repair that relationship while at the same time planning some kind of big gesture. Back in Boston, Kaylee is just surviving, not thriving. The gray cloud is upon her. At one point, she does go back to her coffee shop with flowers to apologize for making a scene because she didn't want to ruin that barista's life.
No.
And she and that barista then commiserate over how awful Tyler is for a little whiler.
We talk about Tyler for a whiler.
So they talk about Tyler, they commiserate, they form a friendship, everything is fine there. And then ultimately what ends up happening is one day Kaylee is at work and her next appointment is coming in. It's a new client who wants to be who wants to be placed into an EMS rotation. It's Harley. They never got each other's numbers. They had no reason to.
No.
He had no way of knowing how to find her, but he remembered that she said that she worked at this one place that did medical staffing, and he has an EMT license, so he needs a job. He needs to move to Boston, and he needs a job. And she's like, what about Maine? What about your job? What about your life, your cabin? No, all of that stuff is not as important as you. If you want to be in Boston, then I am coming to Boston. Mm-hmm. And she's like, fuck Boston. Boston sucks. I don't want to be in Boston. Hell no.
As someone who has lived in Boston at a point in my life, I like the city. Mm-hmm. I do. But I would choose
not to live there.
Choose not to live there.
Yeah. So they like wrap up that conversation in her office. She ends up putting a bunch of plants and stuff in a box and walking out. I think she quit. She just like left. She was like, I'm done.
I don't know if Kaylee quit, but she's doing that thing that people do when they quit.
Yeah, which is carrying out a box full of plants. So I don't know.
She even took my plants. She seemed really committed to it.
Yep. So she takes him back to her apartment and they have another very long conversation. He reveals all of his trauma that he had with his brother that ultimately kept him from wanting to show her around in town, trying to protect her, keep her safe from the gossip, keep her safe from nosy people and his shitty older brother and the general dangers of the forest. He apologizes for all of that. They decide to have, I think, dinner in this sequence as well. This is a wonderful apology-laden, communication-filled conversation. And when all of it is said and done, they reaffirm their I love yous and they fuck about it. Because of course they do. There is no epilogue, but the last 2 chapters serve as our epilogue. So Kaylee moves to Pine Bluff and opens a coffee shop called Silver Springs Coffee and Crystals, named for the song, absolutely. They are working on their relationship every day. Nothing is ever perfect, but is always better together. And that is the whole point. In the final scene, Harley proposes to Kaylee. She says yes, and then they fuck in the rain.
Ooh.
The end. Thank you. That was Stormbound. Holy crap, that book. It was such a fucking ride, man.
That was a ride. Holy cow. That was a hell of a ride.
So many emotions. I have so many emotions. Oh my God. Anyway, thanks for listening.
No, that's okay. But we did go a little bit long, so I won't commiserate too much about the book other than to say that was fantastic. It definitely,
yeah,
it had like, I got the sense even from just the way you communicated it that Maggie is very good at building the world and building realistic, believable, human characters, which I am very much into. Hey. What are you into?
I am into... Golly, that's a good question. What am I into? I am into Dimension 20, Misfits and Magic Season 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, let's go with that. So Misfits and Magic, I think I have talked about on the show before.
You have, yes.
To some degree, it's a tabletop game on the Dropout platform. They play a dice-based role-playing game called Kids on Brooms. It's been adapted from a game called Kids on Bikes, but it is essentially Harry Potter-esque, but like, what if a bunch of Americans wound up at Hogwarts and went, this is fucking weird. Y'all are weird. And a lot of this is weird. And then you just go from there.
This isn't whimsy. It's fucked.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't whimsy. This is insanity. Anyway, so season 2 it is live now. There are 6 episodes. The DM is Abria Iyengar, who is one of the most incredibly creative and influential people in my life. I idolize her. Her stories are beautiful, and the way that she runs her table.
Is it Abria or just Bria?
Abria.
It is Abria. Okay.
Yes. The way that she runs her table is so woman.
Mm-hmm.
She runs a woman's table, and I love it. I love it. That's not to say that anyone else who's ever run a show for them isn't great. Brandon Lee Mulligan is one of the best DMs ever, but he cannot do what Abria Iyengar does. He never could, because he's not a black woman. And that has lended itself to making the most incredible DM. She is amazing. I love her. I idolize her. I want to hug her. Anyway, that's what I am into. Maybe I'm just into Abria Iyengar.
Totally fair.
Totally fair. But so what are you into?
I, as always, am into a lot of things. But this week, I am into you.
Oh.
We are recording this on Friday, November 22nd, 2 days before our 12th wedding anniversary.
Oh my God.
So our anniversary always falls very near or sometimes on Thanksgiving, which is very appropriate because I would not be where I am today were it not for you. I have the life that I always dreamed of that I never thought I could have. So I wanted to take this opportunity to publicly as this is, tell everyone just how fucking awesome you are and how much I love being married to you. So this week, I'm into you.
Oh, thanks, baby. You're so sweet.
You're welcome.
Is it really bad that I forgot our anniversaries in 2 days?
Nope. It's okay.
Okay, good. Because we already did the thing.
Yeah.
We already celebrated when we went and did the Shorzy game. That was our anniversary. So I forgot that our actual anniversary hadn't happened yet.
No, because we talked about we were gonna get lunch on Monday.
Oh, we were,
because both the kids were gonna be out of the house, but then we forgot that it's the holiday and
our
son doesn't have school.
Yeah.
But our daycare, because they're like, if you don't bring her, we kick her out, and you have to pay for it, even though it's whatever. I don't want to get into that. So, what are we reading next week?
Next week we are reading A Court-Ordered Romance by Lark Green.
Wow.
Yes, I am reading this as an arc. It is part of the Winter Bliss romance series, which is a demon holiday romance series. And it is written by 3 different authors. All 3 of them have a book in the series coming out in the next week. I had to pick one, so I picked this one. So A Court-Ordered Romance by Lark Green. That's what we're reading.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, you can find us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We are at Cheap Smut on Instagram and Threads. We are at Blue Sky at cheapsmutpod.bsky.whatever social. If you'd like to send us an email, go ahead, I guess. cheapsmutpod@gmail.com. If you liked this book and you want to support the author, if you go to the show notes where it says our link tree, top link, once the show hits the main feed, will be a link to that book. It is not an affiliate sponsor. We don't get any money for that. If you think we are worthy of $1, one monthly dollar of your dollars, you can support us on Patreon like these fine folks have. Aaron Manak, Miss Chris, Raven, Natasha Bear, Desiree Rodriguez, Local Mind Flayer Seattle, number 42, Bookworm, Kitsune Inc., Cassie, Cassandra, Brian S., April D. Berry, Leah Legend, Dana Goddard, Gemma, Lady Squishy Buns, Tia Esk, Rob Gatika, Angela McNichols, Katie Hurd, Gwendolyn Harper, Seneca O., and Rebecca K. The music that you hear in this and every episode is called Nostalgia by Mackay Beats. You can find it, along with thousands of songs, free of charge for you to use, but not you, Himbo Jones, at the Free Music Archive, freemusicarchive.org.
Himbo Jones is sleeping. He doesn't need music. Listener, remember, if there is a book in you, write it. And if there's fucking in it, I'll read it.
And then she'll come on this show and explain it to me for your entertainment.
Bye-bye.